Welcome to Conversations from Stritch. Today is Thursday, August 29th. I'm Dr. David Livingston, president of Lewis University, and I'm joined, as always, by Dr. Christopher Sant, our provost. It is incredible to be back for our fifth season. We're excited to be here. Welcome Week has been an incredible success. In the last 10 days, we have had almost 8,000 students that have started here at Lewis University, about 1,000 of them in the residence halls here on campus. We made it through the first year convocation, the welcome week, the picnics, the carnivals, the drone light show, our opening mass, and now school has started on Monday for all of our students, though as we know, many of our students take maybe just one class a week. Some of them are going part-time, and so they may be having their first class tonight in Oak Brook, for all we know. Yesterday, we had our student involvement fair. These are all of our clubs and organizations that people can be a part of. Very exciting and energizing time for our returning students to get involved in a club when they weren't ready to do their first year, or new students to see all the opportunities that are possible. Yesterday was also St. Augustine Day. So I was in at Argyle campus celebrating with our St. Augustine employees and students for the Feast of St. Augustine. We had Mass, we had a barbecue, and in addition to that, had some games in the afternoon. So a fun day to celebrate. As you know, we also celebrate here later the Feast of John Baptist de La Salle on our campus as well. So really exciting week. A somewhat tiring week, but now everybody's into the rhythm, and we're excited to have the new semester. So welcome back, and welcome, Chris.
Thank you
good
so
to be
much.
Here with you.
Great to be here with you as well. And looking at that video that we were just watching, it brings back some memories of even last week. Mm-hmm. And I really had a good time at these events, and including yesterday at the Student Involvement Fair, where there was so much excitement and activity and great energy around participating in these extracurricular and co-curricular activities. So if you missed the Student Involvement Fair, please know that there's lots more time to get involved with different parts of the campus. And I was really sorry because I was there to miss St. Augustine Day in Uptown. So I hope that was a wonderful day for everyone. We have not been on for a while, so there's a lot of news. I'm not going to share the news of the whole summer, but I do have a few things to mention. The Lewis University Illinois Workforce Education Program hosted a graduation celebration for its General Construction Pre-Apprenticeship Program on August 24th here at the Romeoville campus. We both were there. It was wonderful to be there. Mm-hmm. Sponsored and funded by the Illinois Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunity, also known as DCEO, and Illinois Works. This program equips participants with essential skills for careers in the construction industry. The event recognized 80 graduates who completed the 12-week program in Aurora, Grace Lake, Waukegan, and here at the Joliet Romeoville campus. The program's curriculum, delivered by the Institute for Workforce Education, included nationally recognized certifications in OSHA 10, Flagger, NCC, ER, and First Aid and CPR. These certifications are critical for securing positions within the construction industry, and 61 graduates have already successfully applied for union jobs connected to those completion of the program. So it was wonderful. It included remarks by Dr. Norman Ruano, Illinois Works Officer and Deputy Director at DCO, as well as remarks by 4 state legislators, including State Representative Dagmara Avilar, State Senator Meg Lofgren-Capel, State Senator Rachel Ventura, and State Representative Harry Benton. So a couple other things. Dr. Jerry Kavoris, Chair and Biology Professor at Lewis University, recently shared his experiences from a transformative trip to Yopal, Colombia, in a blog titled From Classroom to Cacao Farm, a Transformative Journey. The trip he took in the very beginning of the summer brought together students and faculty from Lewis, Manhattan College, and New Mexico State University to explore the cultivation and sustainability of cacao, a vital global crop. Hosted by the Universidad de La Salle's Utopia campus, the group immersed themselves in the Lasallian model of education, where Colombian students receive tuition-free education focused on sustainable agriculture. Dr. Kavoris highlighted the impressive commitment of the students, noting their involvement in campus life and preparation for entrepreneurial ventures after graduation. They learned from the Cacao Federation of Colombia about global production challenges, including deforestation, child labor, and soil contamination. The trip also offered insights into agricultural research in the labs there, as well as efforts being made to support local farmers through innovations like disease-free crops and the use of drones and robots. Really underscored Lewis's commitment to providing students with global educational opportunities that foster learning and innovation. And we've talked about this before on the show. It's a multiple year program funded by grants that Dr. Kavoris has done, where we've had students from Bogota here on our campus doing research, and now it was wonderful for our students to go there and learn through that great program. Congratulations to Dr. Marty Philippian, Professor of English and Director of the Language and Literature Concentration, who's been invited to join the editorial board of the Edinburgh Critical Studies in Early Modern Literature and Disability. We spoke with him here in this room last spring about his work in that area. The series delves into the intersection of early modern literature and disability studies, which is, as we've heard, a rapidly growing academic field. Dr. James Talon, Professor of History, recently published a book chapter titled International Actors Intervening in a Local War, the Long World War I of Eastern Mediterranean 1911 to 1923. It appears in the edited volume called Boundaries of War, Local and Global Perspectives in Military History, published by the Marine Corps University Press. And his chapter explores the complex interplay of international forces in the Eastern Mediterranean during the early 20th century, a period often overshadowed by the larger events of World War I. Eric Jones, Professor and Associate Dean for Aviation Initiatives at Lewis University, was a featured speaker at the Chicago Public Library's YouTube live event called Electric Horizons, the Future of Sustainable Air Travel. Back in August 12th, the panel discussion explored electric aviation's potential to revolutionize the industry and reduce its environmental impact. Mr. Jones shared his insights on electric aviation's challenges and opportunities. Dr. Dennis Kremen, Professor of History, will be a featured speaker at the History Center of Lake Forest and Lake County, or Lake Bluff, sorry. He will join History Center Executive Director Carol Summerfield in a discussion about the Modern Inn Mid-Century exhibit at 7 p.m. on September 12th. And it is open, the exhibit's open through November and examines the cultural impact of the 1950s America. And then finally, another thing coming up, or it's there now, but an event coming up, the Brent and Jean Wadsworth Family Gallery at Lewis is presenting Motherwell, Melanesia, and Monsters from the private collection of Mike Sobczak, an eclectic and captivating exhibit showcasing works collected over several decades. It will be on view through September 20th with a reception and gallery talk that night from 7 to 9. Oh no, on September 5th from 7 to 9 p.m. The exhibition offers a rare glimpse into the private collection of Mr. Sobczak, a 1970 graduate of Lewis. His collection is a testament to his lifelong passion for ethnographic art, particularly art from New Guinea and contemporary works inspired by his early exposure to the Field Museum in Chicago. And I believe, I forget the number of exhibits we've had in the gallery, but this is the first one ever that is a person's collection being exhibited rather than the artist's work being on exhibit, or Lewis's collection. Sometimes we do, but this is a really interesting combination.
Is common among galleries.
Yeah.
And so I think it's as you say, it's a kind of expansion of our capacity as a gallery to be noted by people. And I love that it's taking advantage of one of our alumni who is willing to share his collection with us. A few things. I mean, impressive amount of work over the summer by our faculty and professional staff. another one of our alumni. I was just this morning, I was telling you on the walk over, Chris, that I was with Brother Moses, who is the auxiliary visitor of the Luanga district over in Africa. I've been working, as we talked last year, on some of the things related to what's going on in Africa in terms of the Lasallian world. But it was so good to see him back on campus. And one of our guests is an alumna. We have so many alumni out there in the world, and I've spent the summer with a lot of them, and it's just been great to see so many of our people making such a positive difference in the world. So it is, we don't have any athletic events, so I'm not going to talk about that. Usually I do that at this point in the show. But we do have events coming up this week. So we have the Fine Arts patio that's happening in terms of this week. We also have the theater department Welcome Back picnic and the Black August open mic night. All these are today. Tonight, 7:30, you can go across the bridge to Lockport and go to the open mic night for Black August. I think it's going to be an amazing event. I hear there's going to be some humor with some kind of stand-up comedy and some poetry and other things. Tomorrow, we have the Asian American Association welcome that happens from 3 to 5. And then on the 1st, we have Sunday's Mass, which is at 7 p.m. Chris and I were at Mass last weekend for the opening Mass of the year, which was very nice. Monday, the Math Club has its picnic. You know, you'll hear this, we were talking earlier, Chris was talking about all the opportunities that are available in terms of clubs and organizations. Much of what I'm talking about are their beginning of the year events. So if you signed up on their list, you'll be getting an email. Make sure you check your email or your texts, and make sure you go to the different picnics where different clubs and organizations are welcoming people. There's also next week on the 2nd a Mario Kart tournament, and then on the 3rd from 6:30 to 7 in the evening, Friends of Faith is happening in the Darcy Room. And then, of course, our first community hour next Wednesday, September 4th. So for our new students, just a reminder, Wednesdays in the middle of the day, there are no classes, and it gives an opportunity for everybody on campus to get involved in clubs and organizations, and there'll be a whole list of events that you will receive that has community hour, and it's just an exciting addition. Started it last year. Chris, you were one of the lead people. I know you worked with a lot of different people to get this off the ground, but I just thought it was such a rewarding experience for the whole campus, so we're really excited about that. Okay, I know you're going to introduce our guests. Tell those that are online watching us how they can send questions in.
Yeah, great. I am going to introduce our guest in just a minute, and before I do that, I'm going to give a little bit of an update on the Oak Point Teach Out. We haven't talked about it yet today, and there's maybe some information there. And before I do that, in case I forget, remember to use the Ask Us at lewisu.edu email there at the bottom of the screen if you would like to ask a question. And a reminder about that we will try to work some of the questions that come through into our discussion today in the time that we have, but it's an email that we get, so we will also refer the questions that you send to either one of our guests if they're direct questions for them, or we'll send it out to whomever might be able to respond if it doesn't get addressed during the show. So another piece of Lewis news over the past few months has been the Oak Point Teach Out. To remind you, Oak Point University closed on April 19th, and Lewis was approved as a formal Teach Out institution for students at Oak Point so that they could continue their programs of study. Lewis has been especially well positioned to serve in this role because of the significant overlap between our mutual nursing and health science programs, and the fact that our campus there in Oak Brook is only a few blocks away from the Oak Point location. This was an opportunity for us to alleviate some of the stress and mitigate the disruption in the academic pursuits of over 300 students. About 325 students from Oak Point were enrolled at the campus the Oak Brook campus over the summer, and about 70 or so completed their studies at the end of the summer. I was so pleased to be there at the recognition ceremonies for both nursing and radiography. So a lot of great professionals have done incredible work since April to support this really large influx of students to Lewis, expanding the schedule, preparing the classes, advising students and registering students, managing relationships and approvals with accreditors, preparing the physical space with labs and other learning environments, hiring faculty and staff to teach and support the students. It's been a tremendous undertaking, and I just want to say from the bottom of my heart, I'm so grateful to our guests, but to dozens and dozens of people across the university who have just done incredible work to make it as smooth as it possibly could be during a really quick turnaround of a lot of students' experiences, as well as a lot of systems and processes and places that we have set up for this work. We have about 250 students enrolled in nursing and radiography programs in this fall, and we plan to move forward through the teach out in two significant ways. One is that we have established an adult BSN program at Oak Brook. We have been teaching BSN here for decades and decades, and so it's not a new program at Lewis, but a new home for a program designed for adult students who would like to study and get a BSN with a flexible schedule in that region. And second, we have taken on the radiography program permanently that was at Oak Point. And even though Lewis has offered a radiography program here for years through a partnership with Northwestern, this is a new set of faculty and students that we will be bringing and serving here at Lewis. And through that, we've set up labs and instruction on the Oak Brook campus for students interested in studying for a bachelor's degree in that field. Okay, so with all of that in mind, we have invited leaders of those two initiatives to be with us here today. So Eric Fugate has a bachelor's degree, I'm gonna introduce them both, a bachelor's degree in health arts and a master's in healthcare administration from the University of St. Francis. He has worked in all areas of radiography and fluoroscopy, including trauma and radiography and special procedures, interventional radiography. From 2015 to 2023, he served as associate director at Resurrection University and has served as program director at Oak Point since 2023. Dr. Murphey has taught at Lewis before any of this started, and DePaul University, the University of Illinois at Chicago, and Resurrection Oak Point. I should just maybe quickly clarify that Oak Point's previous name was Resurrection. We'll talk about that, where she served as Dean of Nursing and Chief Nursing Officer. Dr. Murphey has served as the Director of Nursing at the University of Illinois Hospital and Health Sciences System, where she was part of a team that applied cutting-edge practices to bariatric surgery, especially for underserved populations. Her doctoral work focused on the detection of depression among African American and Hispanic women undergoing bariatric surgery. Her research has continued to focus on vulnerable populations, development of partnerships with Special Olympics and United Nations, and educating nurses and nurse practitioners regarding interprofessional education, artificial intelligence, obesity, and depression. She holds a DNP, I believe, from the University of Illinois at Chicago, and a Master of Science from DePaul, in addition to her BSN from Lewis University, which we will talk about. So Melissa and Eric, welcome.
Thank you, Dr. Sink.
Thank you for sitting patiently.
It's a pleasure. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Yeah, it's so fun to be with you. It's been so fun to work with you over these last few months. Could you, Melissa, I think I might just start with you. Could you just tell us a little bit about the history of Resurrection and Oak Point and, you know.
Absolutely. I'd love to. So Resurrection and Oak Point University, we had a 100-year history, rich history in the Chicago market. We had multiple programs. So we had programs in both the College of Nursing, undergraduate level, and 4 nurse practitioner tracks, as well as a Doctor of Nursing practice. And then in addition to that, we had the St. Francis School of Radiography. So we had a very rich history, and we had campuses in Wicker Park, 1431 North Claremont. And then in addition to that, we moved just post-COVID into an Oak Brook campus. And that we served primarily Chicagoland students in providing education for them. There were some transitions from the Resurrection name to Oak Point, and there was a bit of a break from the Catholic tradition, transitioning over to Oak Point in 2020.
2020. So that happened right around the COVID time, the transition of the name and the locations and all of that kind of stuff.
Correct.
Yeah.
So,
and could you, I mean, you mentioned this a little bit, but could you just fill in a little bit? So is there, was there a kind of profile of the student that you served that you could help us to understand? You said it was primarily Chicago-based. Is it healthcare? Only thing that Resurrection did, right?
it was.
And I think one of the things that is interesting to me that is somewhat unique to the Resurrection Oak Point model was that the faculty and staff are all healthcare professionals because Oak Point and Resurrection did not teach history or philosophy. So we have nurses here at Lewis, but we also teach them philosophy and history and college writing. And that's not something that Oak Point Resurrection did. It focused solely on the healthcare side of it.
Correct. So our students came to us having already completed their pre-nursing and pre-radiography credits. They came to us with having completed about 60 credits, and they were entering then into what would be like their junior level status as a nursing student. So.
And then some graduate students as well.
As
and
well,
they were
yeah.
obviously done with their bachelor's or master's because they were doing their DNP.
Correct. Yeah. During like the last 10 to 15 years, we really focused on graduate, and we were establishing additional programs. We had 4 nurse practitioner tracks, 2 certificates in nurse practitioner, and in 2017 we had created the Doctor of Nursing Practice program, which focused on just that, urban health and health policy, because as I kind of had stated, our students, they may have chosen to come back to complete their studies and or complete another degree. So our students are very diverse. They average age is 31, and they come from the Chicago metropolitan area and surrounding suburbs.
And can I just ask either one of you or both of you just a little bit more about that? Are students in the history of Resurrection and Oak Point, what have they typically been doing before they're 31? I guess because I think that's kind of what your question is getting to too. Is they haven't had experience yet or education yet in health professions necessarily. Maybe some have, but they haven't had the credit hours that to build up to that. And so
I think specific to radiography, it's a very interesting field, being that so many other people are in other avenues of healthcare, or were pursuing other avenues of healthcare, and found out about radiography from being at the hospital or talking to people that were involved in it, and then saw that, upon investigation and getting to talk to other technologists, getting to actually spend time in a radiology department, they were able to see, wow, this is an outstanding career. That I think a lot of people really misunderstood radiography. And then, when they actually got an understanding of it, saw so many responsibilities that technologists perform. We are in the operating room, we're in the emergency room. I think that there's this big misunderstanding that we just take x-rays of people that are sitting in a chair. We are all over. We serve the entire population of the hospital. So I think, interestingly enough, that's why we get some students that are a little bit older, that get into like their late 20s and early 30s before they find us. I always tell people, I have a couple of instructors that actually in kindergarten said, I want to be an x-ray tech. But other than that, mostly everybody else says, I want to be a nurse or I want to be a doctor. Right. And then they find out that so many of those responsibilities that we're responsible for, and the great work that we get to do with patient care, then they're all in.
Yeah.
So tell me about the transition, if you could, maybe both of you, either of you. What's been going on since April in terms of kind of serving the students and getting this all? I mean, I guess I just want to note for those watching a reminder. There was a whole university that was functioning along, and then there came a day in April where it stopped functioning, right?
April 19th.
And then 2 weeks later, there needed to be a whole program that was up and running at Lewis University. So between, I don't know, April 1st and today, there's been a lot of work going on with it. And Chris mentioned there's a lot of people to be grateful for, the two of you as leaders, really importantly, but lots of other people. But just tell us, what's happened between, let's say, April 1st and September 1st, so to speak, that's allowed students to continue to move towards their completion of their degrees.
Well, I would say a big thanks, right? A big thanks for allowing us to transition and bring many of our undergraduate and graduate students to a reputable institution that is going to provide them to be able to reach their goal. So from April, that was a very nice synopsis of how quickly it all transpired. So within that 3-week period, we were somewhat shocked by the news as faculty, and we had to quickly transition students, faculty, and staff to be able to just do that, meet their goal. So it required a lot of work on both Lewis and Oak Point staff's part in transitioning these students, making sure they had the resources available for them to be successful. And it's been, I would not say a challenge, I'd say it's been exhilarating in the sense of a lot of moving parts, but a lot of success in a short amount of time. I mean, just last week we were able to see greater than 20 nurses, right? And a large group of radiography graduate and meet their goal with a shock occurring in April.
Yeah, really without interruption
Yeah.
in terms of what they would have,
Yeah,
when
it's
they would
awesome.
have graduated.
Yeah, and I think the biggest part of that is that they did not miss a beat. All these students graduated at the exact same time, right? So to do something like that we all did in that amount of time is, I think, very gratifying to all of us. I know that we're all extremely grateful to our staff. If you guys are watching, we are. We tell you that all the time, but because it does take so many people and engaged staff to be able to do that. And I think that the big part of that is that everybody was pulling on the same end of the rope and saying, we want to do everything that we can to get these students to finish on time and to contribute in healthcare where they want to spend the rest of their career.
I'd like to, this is not on our kind of pre-list of questions that we try to work up, but I'm interested in maybe hearing from all three of you. So here's what it reminds me of, and I'm thinking about this in terms of our colleagues, which you've talked about, but also our students, that many of these, all of us, have gone through a major transition when COVID happened, right? And we had to oh my gosh, what is this and the whole new world and how do we work with it? And then this whole group had to go through another major transition. And I'm just interested in your thoughts, any of your thoughts on more of a long-lasting impact on how people think about being a professional, or even as a student, how they think about, because some of these students could have started, maybe they were working on their associate degree when COVID happened, and then all of a sudden they transitioned, and then their school shut down, and they didn't know what that was happening, and then they moved to a different school, and then they just graduated, or they're still going to school. But it feels like this isn't going to stop. I don't want to overstate that, but this sense of being able to gear up very quickly. Because when you were talking about how quickly you had to gear up and everybody had to pull on the rope from the same direction, it felt like we did that during COVID. And then all of a sudden this happens. And so I'm just interested in that, how you see that impacting you as professionals maybe, and how you see it impacting students in terms of this, what feels like just major changes.
Yeah, I think we owe the students a great amount of respect for, understanding that this was a horrible thing that happened to them, but there is definitely a light at the end of the tunnel that's going to be great. Dr. Livingston, Dr. Sint, Dr. Murphy, you know, our students, a lot of them left from the Oak Brook campus to come to the Romeoville campus and to be at various different clinical sites for a lot of the responsibilities that they had as students to carry out their education. And we didn't miss a beat, you know? So I think it's the resiliency of these students that can absolutely not be, you know, it's not short-sighted at all. I think we give them a lot of respect, and we didn't lose one student. So I think that that's just a credit to how much that they're dedicated to the field of healthcare and to being able to contribute to that community.
Yeah, I echo that. You know, the resiliency that was shown by the staff, the welcome nature of Lewis to invite our students in and make them aware of the resources and not miss a beat is really a testament to Lewis. I think essentially as healthcare workers, you always have to pivot, right? You have to pivot in ways that might not be foreseen in the future. So in one way, we're teaching them, you know, not by the means of COVID, right, or by this, but their life lessons. How you react and how you pivot in ways is instrumental to, you know, success in the future.
I think it's so funny because every time that we go into healthcare, like what, if you talk to directors, managers, VPs, what do they want healthcare professionals to be able to do? The first two words are always critical thinking. Well, I mean, I think that we really excel in that, and the students really have excelled in that because of the nature of the way that their education has been since COVID, Dr. Livingston. You know, just being able to say, okay, this is the way that it's going to go now. How do we get this done now? How do we optimize that now? So I think that if nothing else, this generation of learners is outstanding with critical thinking.
Yeah, I have this privilege of being able to speak to really all Lewis students when they began at one point in their orientation, and I know you two don't remember this, but I spoke to these students at the when they were joining us in May, and something I say to everyone is that you are going to have trouble during your time while you're in college. If it's 4 years or 2 years or 12 weeks, there's always something that comes up that makes it challenging to get your work done and to show up for class the next day, and could be a family event, it could be anything, but they've already, I basically said, you can cross that off your list. You've had tremendous
obstacles.
and it's good, as you said, Eric, it's good to learn how to be vigilant in the case of those types of challenges, because that's what happens if you're working in healthcare. A lot of other professions is the same things happen, and you need to show up and do the work. And so I think that is great. You know, we wish it was fewer challenges for them, for sure, of course, but I do think it's all connected, and they have been amazing to get to that point where I tried to make reference to that last week at the recognition ceremonies. In terms of people who work at Lewis and Oak Point, or now at Lewis, everyone, I think people would, well, let me say it this way. We have a lot of things going on. We talk about them here, we talk about them everywhere, a lot of initiatives that are underway. I'm sure you, President Livingston, like me, have a hard time remembering what year it is because we're always talking about 2027 or 2029 or whatever. But sometimes the slowness of those initiatives cause a different type of pain. But I think everyone who works here would prefer to do it more slowly, would have preferred to do it over a year, and to do it more slowly and carefully, and to solve problems before they happened, and the way we generally approach things. But there is a silver lining about the intensity of this experience, which is the camaraderie, I think, that in the group. And one of the people in our, at one point was a daily group that talked every day about what was going on. And we actually had our final meeting this morning. Coincidentally, some of the leadership team members who've been working on it all summer, one of them said, "This reminds me of COVID," when in the beginning. And that wasn't a negative comment. It was I love the camaraderie of this group kind of comment. And I certainly have seen that when I've been at Oak Brook with all the staff and faculty and different configurations of people that are working together to serve the students. It's really been inspiring to see. And again, I know people would prefer to not have worked this hard.
Sure.
I know, don't get me wrong, but there is a kind of beauty to it as well.
Yeah, I mean, and I guess I just want to say again to the three of you and everybody else on these teams, I am so grateful because at the end of the day, one of my responsibilities is to assure the quality of the educational experience and to assure that this kind of contractual relationship that we agree to when we accept a student, that you should be able to complete your degree, whatever that degree is, or certificate in a timely manner that is affordable to you. That's the contractual relationship. We promise that. And to be able to fulfill that without, as you say, skipping a beat, because that's what a teach out, just to go back to a teach out partner, it's Illinois Board of Higher Ed and the Higher Learning Commission pushing the community of higher ed to fulfill that promise. So if one member of the community can't fulfill that promise, which is what happened here, then the community as a whole, Lewis stepped in and said, we'll help out with that because these students shouldn't suffer because an institution suffered. And that's part of this whole thing. But that does require people to step up and do extra work for students to be resilient. And I do think that resiliency, there are things that I'd say as people that are older that we can say, these younger people, whatever, they're always on their phone, they're always doing this. But I will say that even a 30-year-old, the resiliency that people are showing that in their 20s and early 30s that they had to go through COVID, that now they had to go through this, they are better at that in many ways than I am, right? Because we get set in our ways, and in their formative years, they're like, you can't depend on anything. The world can turn around, because COVID was the same way. 2 weeks later, we had to have 2,200 sections online. Right? In this case, we had to serve, 350 students in 2 weeks, just like that. And I think that changes how you perceive of the world. So, all right, so I want to switch gears. Go ahead. No, go ahead, please.
I would love to hear from each of you just a little bit about your careers in any way, anything you want to share, like your research or your professional experience in addition to teaching. And
Go ahead.
So I always like to, when students ask me this, they are like, how did you get into radiography? I always say, everybody has an origin story. You want to start from the beginning. I didn't ask for that. But just really quick, exactly, I'm not going to give you that. But I think that healthcare, people who get into healthcare have experiences in their life that kind of shape what they want to do. And I think our students are no different. I think that they actually see themselves in us a lot of the time. And I think that that's important to kind of give them that type of experience that we have, and we give it to them to be able to kind of shape that. And really, it kind of gives them an idea of our experiences, what it used to be, to how quickly things can change. Radiography is night and day from what it was 1995 when I graduated the radiography program at Triton College to what it is in 2024. The technology, the speed in which examinations are performed, how quickly patients are able to get their diagnosis and have no delay of care and improve health outcomes now is staggering how quickly that can happen. And what used to take, and Melissa and I actually used to work in the same operating room, what used to take 12 hours now is done in under an hour. Cases like valve replacements and TAVRs that used to take, opening people's chest. It's a femoral puncture now, and it's done in an hour and a half. So I think that it's that excitement to where is it in another 20 years? What happens in 20 years? And that's where I think students are really, they're in class, but they see what we all see.
That's cool. Yeah.
And Melissa, what about your kind of professional, or anything you want to share about the professional?
So I guess it would be nice to share that I started here at Lewis, right? So I was fortunate to play a sport I loved here and obtain my Bachelor's of Science in Nursing.
Oh, there you are.
Oh, there you go. I haven't seen those in a while.
We all expect autographed copies before we leave.
That's right.
Yeah, absolutely. So I am originally from Chicago. I was very fortunate to receive my Bachelor's of Science in Nursing in here at Lewis, and I played collegiate basketball for 4 years while I was here. So I then was able to transition. You know, when I reflect back on my time here at Lewis, I had the opportunity in my role transition, which is just right prior to graduation, I had a unique clinical opportunity to round in the operating room. And that's where I started my healthcare career. So I was an operating room nurse. I then transitioned and became a family nurse practitioner. Served in some leadership roles. I still practice as a nurse practitioner, and have enjoyed working over the last 25 years in seeing the emerging technologies and doing research with vulnerable populations. So that's a lot of what my focus has been over the past few years.
It's really impressive research. I mean, hearing Chris talk
Yes.
about that research, I find that fascinating.
Can I ask the next
Yeah,
question
please,
also?
please.
Yeah, please.
So then, and I'm so welcome. Like I feel like this is partially you're welcome to the community, and so I wanted to ask. And you know, as I said, Lewis has already had these degrees before this whole teach out began, but as I said, also there's a huge new potential for the future. So I'm just wondering if each of you, just from your experience and your background and everything you know about delivering education at Resurrection and Oak Point the way you did for so long, what do you see as the potential for the future in the two programs?
Well, for radiography, I think that if you look at the way that healthcare is just in the Chicagoland market now, we've seen so many combinations of different healthcare organizations adjoining. And I think that the real opportunity there for diagnostic imaging is being able to share a lot more of elevated services everywhere. It used to be, everyone used to always say, oh, you had to go downtown to get this procedure now. Now we have really excellently trained staffs, even in the smaller areas of our counties, and they're able to get those services there. So I think that that's something that's really changing in healthcare in our market is that, people don't have to fly across the world anymore, that they're able to get a lot of that cutting edge technology healthcare with us here. And because of these technologists and nurses and respiratory therapists that have such outstanding experiences and are able to share that with the patients in the healthcare market.
Okay, so before I move to Melissa, I'm gonna push you a little bit on this because incredible stuff. And I guess I have two things. It seems to me that because some people don't even know what radiography is. And you said this, diagnostic imaging. So what it brings to my mind is radiography allows us to see the human body beyond cutting into somebody or with visual, right? So I can see beyond what I could normally see because of the way that technology and radioisotopes connect with each other, talk to each other.
Yep.
So, but I want to push, so that feels like that's what you're saying. And I guess I want to ask, you're also saying that has expanded a lot in the years that you've been a professional in it. I guess I want to go to the students because I think this is part of what Chris is asking. What's the opportunity in terms of, I'm sitting there as an 18-year-old, a 22-year-old, a 27-year-old. Why would I want to go into radiography? And what are the kinds of jobs that I can get? And where would I work, right? And is it going to expand? Like if I get this, are there going to be jobs for me? And if you can just like say, boy, this is where it's going, and these are all the different things you can do.
Yeah, it's just tremendous. So just to kind of clarify that a little bit, to actually perform as a radiographer, students have to be able to sit for their board examinations. And radiography is known as a primary pathway, which means our certifying body who accredits technologists, the ARRT, you have to complete a primary program in radiography. Another one is nuclear medicine. Dr. Livingston, you said radioisotopes. Another is ultrasound. Those are primary pathways. But if you wanted to perhaps get into CT, or what people commonly refer to as CAT scan, where you're actually taking cross-sectional images using radiation, or into, if I wanted to go into mammography, where you have technologists that are taking life-saving exposures to visualize breast imaging. To do any of those secondary pathways, you have to have a primary first. Okay. So if I'm complete my primary, my ARRT, our program, I can go and work as an X-ray technologist in the operating room, or taking portables in the ICU, or operating fluoroscopic equipment in the pain clinic, live dynamic images, right? If someone breaks their tibia, they need to put a rod into that and to fix it, right? Technologists operate the live imaging information, the fluoroscope, to see that information. But then the great thing about our field is if you say, you know what, I feel like a little bit of a change, a little bit of a different career, then you could go on to CT. You could go into MRI, where you're actually using the magnet to obtain those images instead of using X-rays, or mammography. You have all those pathways available to you. And actually some of our technologists, some of our graduates, are doing that simultaneously, where they're working in some of those multiple radiographic imaging modalities simultaneously.
Fascinating. All right, so
Thank you.
What's the future of nursing, Melissa?
I am so excited you asked. So when I think of nursing, there is so much opportunity, right? I think Lewis's rich history of having a bachelor's and graduate and doctoral programs now, the sky is the limit. So nursing, there is opportunity for job security, and many people are choosing to enter the workforce now having potentially completed a prior degree, or they may just know, hey, I want to be a nurse, I want to be a nurse practitioner, I want to advance my skills. So I think, as I reflect back on our students who are coming more from a Chicagoland market, I'm really just excited about the opportunities that could occur at Lewis, right? We have our flagship, if we should call it, Romeoville campus, right? Our Oak Brook campus that is now bustling. And I think there's really true opportunities with St. Augustine to, utilize a dense, transit-rich area to establish a footprint in Chicago. So I'm really excited about, opportunities and the growth of our nursing programs.
Yeah. And so there is a nursing shortage. Is there a radiography, radiation technician shortage?
Technologist, Dr. Livingston.
Radiation
Dr.
technologist.
Smith's on that one. He's like, technology. Yeah, exactly the same. Both of our cohorts that have graduated in the last year, all of those guys have had jobs. Probably a month into their last semesters. The great thing is that with our clinical partners, actually I just had a meeting with them, one of the very large based healthcare systems in Chicago, university based. They have 84 ARRT technologists short in that system. So and that's after you had all these students that graduated. So COVID presented a lot of these job openings in healthcare, in nursing, in radiologic technology, and we continue to see them along with the baby boomers that continue to retire. It doesn't look like that's going anywhere anytime soon. I think if you look at the near future, there will continue to be a shortage, and we need to have students that want to go into these health professions, because it's not for everyone, right? It takes special people to say, I want to help people at the end of the day. I want to contribute to getting them better, to their wellness. And that's who we want in our programs. And there is a robust job market out there for the students who wanted to come in and contribute with us.
Yeah.
So we're out of time. And I just want to say one thing, listening to the two of you talk, it reminded me of something, which is that, President Livingston and I have known Resurrection, for a long time, certainly since I've moved here 7 years ago, knew the mission, knew people who worked there, had an understanding long before this whole teach out thing existed, and I've always been so inspired by the mission of the university to serve students who have not, or people who have maybe not had an easy pathway to doing a really, really difficult, challenging profession like working in healthcare And the history of Oak Point and Resurrection is to provide opportunities for people to make a massive impact in the world through the training that they're getting, and especially impact in communities that have not always been served well by healthcare. And I think we certainly responded to the call because of the emergency around the closure, but I just want to make sure it's clear that we only did it because of the beauty and the mission of the history of resurrection that we knew and saw, and the combination of, and the ease with which the LaSallian tradition matches that.
Yes.
And so I'm so happy about that you're both here, and everyone else.
Thank you.
Yeah, so I will wrap things up. I'm going to make just a couple quick comments. One, thank you so much for your leadership, for joining us today. I also want to say, just in terms of not only, I love the way Chris framed it, but I also, in terms of there are jobs out there, and I just, there's a narrative in society that you don't need to go to college. But I just want to say, if you want to be a nurse or a radiation technologist, you do have to become certified. You can't just walk into a hospital and say, I'd like to do this. So there are certain fields where you absolutely need to get an education because people depend on you. The other thing I want to comment on that both of you said is, and it's meaningful work.
Yeah.
It's deeply meaningful work because people that are often at their most vulnerable need you as professionals to help them through that difficult time. All right, so we are really excited to start the new year of Conversations from Stritch. This has been an amazing conversation. Grateful to Melissa and Eric for joining us today. We will be back with more shows this season, and we have a kind of tentative lineup of guests, and it is a great lineup of guests. So please continue to join us. We will have people from all over campus, students, colleagues, on the faculty side, on the professional staff side. It's just an amazing university with so much going on. Thank you for joining us today. Many blessings to you and all those that you love.
From Oak Point, and I am a Lewis Flyer.
I am a graduate student, and I am a Lewis Flyer.
I'm a commuter student, and I'm a Lewis Flyer.
I am Sidney Butler, also known as King Kwan, and I am proud to be a Lewis Flyer.
I'm an international student, and I'm a Lewis Flyer.
I'm from St. Augustine, and I'm a Lewis Flyer.
I'm an aviation maintenance major, and I'm a Lewis Flyer.
I'm a first-year student, and I'm a Lewis Flyer.
I am a general construction pre-apprentice, and I am a Lewis Flyer.
I'm an undergraduate student, and I am a Lewis Flyer.
I'm a transfer student, and I am a Lewis Flyer.
I am a fully online student. I am a Lewis Flyer.
I'm from Homer Glen, and I'm a Lewis Flyer.
I am an international graduate student from China. I am a Lewis Flyer.
I'm a women's basketball player, and I'm a Lewis Flyer.
My name is William Jones. I'm glad to be a flyer for Lewis University.
I'm a veteran of the United States Air Force, and I am a Lewis Flyer.
I'm a graduate student at Oak Brook campus, and we are Flyers.
I'm from Chicago, and I'm a Lewis Flyer.
I'm a track and field athlete, and I am a Lewis Flyer.
I am from Brazil, and I am a Lewis Flyer.
I am a graduate student, and I am a Lewis Flyer.
I'm a biology and chemistry major, and I'm a Lewis Flyer.
We are Lewis Flyers.
We are Lewis Flyers. We are Lewis Flyers.
We are Lewis Flyers.
We are Lewis Flyers.
We are Lewis Flyers.
We are Lewis Flyers.
We are Lewis Flyers.
We are Lewis Flyers.
We are Lewis Flyers.
We are Lewis Flyers.
We are Lewis Flyers.
We are Lewis Flyers.
We are Lewis Flyers.